Hello everyone, it's Matt from Akuma Mods back again with our review of the Anycubic Vyper. So Anycubic sent me this printer to test out. It's basically their new flagship printer that they're boasting about. Now, let's just call it exactly what it is. It is an exact replica, wannabe, knockoff, clone of a Creality CR6 SE, which is technically not even made by Creality. It's made by another company, and that's why this looks exactly like it. Because they basically take the exact same printer and add the manufacturer touches onto it. This is a normal thing for a lot of Chinese manufacturers. Usually you see it a lot with filaments and resins. Not so much printers, at least you haven't in a long time, back in the days of old with the old ANET style printers like the A8, A6, and all the clones that came after that. That's technically a clone off of the Prusa. The same things that's happening again. It seems like everybody's recycling back and basically making a manufacturer and saying, hey, we want these specs on this, and go from there and make it our own. Same thing here. This is almost identical to the CR6 SE, but is it the same? Absolutely not. In my opinion, it's even a little bit better, and I'll tell you exactly why. This printer, unlike the CR6 SE, has a volcano style hot end. Now, for some of you that do or do not know what that means, it basically means it's got a very, very high flow hot end on it. This means you can change out the nozzles, you can print pretty much whatever you want as long as you got the proper enclosure. If you're printing, nylon or ABS or PC or any of those type of really, really heavy chemically bonded filaments. And it can also do TPU. It can do pretty much anything you want. The only thing is there's a limitation with the nozzle. It's got a brass nozzle. So, with abrasive filaments like wood and luminance and color changing and glow in the dark and marble and all the specialty ones that you guys see, all those type of filaments, it will destroy this nozzle pretty quickly. Again, because it's meant more or less for a high flow, but it'll destroy any brass nozzle. So if you want to print stuff like that and just have a printer that works 100% out of the box, really the only thing that you need to change on this printer is the nozzle to a hardened steel or a steel nozzle, and you won't really have that issue. So you can pretty much have like the ultimate printer right out of the box with a change of a nozzle. That's it. So yeah, let's go over some basic features that it's got, and some of the more in-depth reasons why I like this over my Creality CR6 SE, which I don't have anymore. I gave it to my admin of my group, and he pretty much changed out everything that would make that set on fire, because there's still some problems here and there with those printers, but we're talking about the Anycubic Vyper here. So pretty much it's got a auto bed leveling system. It does have dual Z's on it. It is a little bit bigger build volume than like your traditional printer this size, like a Ender 3, G-Tech A10, Voxelab Aquila, CR6 SE, so on and so forth. This one actually has a 250. I'm not 100% sure it's actually 250. I didn't actually pull out my calipers and measure it. I guess I could if I really wanted to, but that's what the build volume is, at least when you're putting in the slicers for it. So it does have a slightly larger build volume on it. Does have a pretty nice touchscreen. I personally am not a big fan of them because they can be a little bit sluggish at times. But this touchscreen is very, very responsive, very, very quick to do what I need to. There is one downfall of the printer itself that I can see, and this would easily be changed out or remedied by a firmware update, either by Anycubic or an outside source like TH3D Studio or anybody else that deals with Marlin type firmware. But the issue that it has with the auto bed leveling is that you can only go down 0.5. So you're either up too high or down too low. So it kind of drags for some people. So if this is not all squared up and ready to go, you're going to have a really, really bad time printing because you only have that 0.5 of depth, unlike most of the auto leveling printers I've had that had custom firmware on it. Usually have a 0.1 where you can just minutely step it down, and it's not a huge step. That makes it a whole lot better. So if Anycubic you're watching, that's really my biggest flaw of this printer, is that there's not enough baby stepping or Z offset. So that's really about the only thing. So I'll just go over some points on the printer. It does have a filament runout detection sensor. It has a dual geared extruder, which I'm kind of so-so with it. It does look really cheap, but it's been working perfectly fine for me. I haven't had any problems. I'm sure it'll have some issue down the road, as most plastic extruders do, and if that does happen, I'll probably end up swapping it out for an actual, like, real dual geared extruder, like a Bondtech or something, or maybe even go to a Titan extruder. I don't know. We'll cross that point when we get to it. So, but yeah, it's got a volcano hot end, auto leveling, and dual Z. Another weird thing to point out here that is just kind of strange to me is how to adjust the belts. Usually there's a knob here or a knob on the side here. Well, that would be nice if there was one, but on here they kind of made it a little bit more compact, I guess, to make it look a little bit nicer, which I do aesthetically. It does look nicer, but I wish there was a manual knob here that I can just turn the screw and it'll tighten or loosen my belt. Whereas here you got to actually use an Allen key to stick it in there and tighten it and loosen it. And the same with this side. So little oddballish, but it's not anything that's going to be like, oh my god, I have to do this. The only problematic thing is I have to dig through my sea of Allen keys that I've accumulated over the 3.5 years of 3D printing. So, but yeah, it's been printing pretty nice. I haven't really had any issues with it, except for when I switched over to TPU. But that was a issue where A, I had never printed with TPU. B, my settings were insanely high. They were like at Ender 3 settings. And so when you're printing at 80 millimeters a second on TPU, it's not going to be very, very nice. And I was like losing my mind, like, what's going on? So I went to the Anycubic Facebook group and posted up. I'm like, hey, I haven't printed TPU ever. What's your guys' settings on this? And some people suggested some settings. And I basically took the medium between a handful of them and put my own settings in there, and it printed perfectly fine. Unfortunately, I can't show you that print because it is a not safe for work print. So, and it's definitely not safe for YouTube. I will probably get red flagged for that. It's the first print I've ever done like that. I'll let you guys think of what it is. With it being TPU, a coworker asked me about it, and they wanted a trophy and a funny trophy. So I was like, I don't usually do that, but you know what? I'll try it out. I've never used TPU, and we'll go from there. First one, like I said, it failed, but it printed. Still, I'm surprised at 80 millimeters, but it was like when you grabbed it, you could hear it crunch inside of it. So it definitely was not bonded correctly with the layering and everything. So it was not working. So, but then I did the settings, and it was perfect after that. Again, unfortunately, I can't show that thing off. So I'm really sorry about that. If you guys want to message me, I can maybe send you a link of it. But yeah, that's about all. I'm gonna leave it at there. But I'll show off some prints that I did do, at least the ones that I still have left here. I did do a couple customer prints on it. I do absolutely love this magnetic, textured PEI sheet. I loved the look of this, the base layer that comes off of these printers or this type of layering. The first time I saw it, somebody printed with carbon fiber, and I haven't gotten around to print with my carbon fiber spool that I have. But they printed with carbon fiber, and it just looks so amazing on it. And I've wanted one ever since. And so when I saw that the Anycubic had it, I was like, oh, we're totally going to print that. And of course, here I am. I haven't printed it yet. So, but it is on my list. I'll get to it at some point. I just got to find a really cool print that I want to do that has a really, really nice base layering on it, so I can get that, little bumpy texture on it, because it looks amazing in like that dark gray color looking carbon fiber. So yeah, but yeah, well, let's show off some of the prints that I did have. Now, I will say that this filament, I am amazed that it printed, because I mostly have resin printers. I don't do a lot of filament printing. So when I do have filament rolls, they've been sitting out for a while. And this was one that, again, was a Amazon return that I got. So God knows how long it's been sitting in an Amazon warehouse before I got it. But it was sent to me. It was some Sunlu silk stuff that they had. And it printed very, very nicely. And I was a little worried because on here, the owl is sitting like on a stump, on a wood stump. And it's got cracks in it, as you guys saw. And I was worried. I was like, oh, this print's already failing. It's delaminating. I'm like, oh, it's the filament. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, you can kind of see it there. See that line that goes across there? That's actually part of the print. So I was like, I saw that and I was like, oh man, it's already failing, but we'll just let it go anyways. And so it finished, and then I took it off and I was like, oh, it's sitting on a wood stump. It's actually an okay print. It's not, there's nothing wrong with it. It looks very, very nice. I like it. It's got a nice sheen to it. So this silk like red is amazing. And then here's my favorite part, the bottom layer. Just, oh, it's hard to see in my camera, but you can just kind of see it just a little bit in that light. Oh, just so amazing. So I decided, hey, let's change out the filament and check out some other prints. So Yusu had a new filament come out, and they wanted me to test and review it, and I haven't fully tested it and everything, but I have printed with it at least, so that's a good start. And it was just like their normal red. It's called PBB, which this basically you can print and put it in an IPA like mist. So you basically put some IPA in a bucket or whatever. You put a cover over this and put it in there and put a cover over it, and the mist from it will actually smooth out everything. So it's kind of like some poly smooth filaments that's been out for a while, but basically it does the same thing as ABS. When you do like an acetone wash on it, it really like smooths it out and everything, so it looks really, really nicely sanded down and painted and everything. But it's actually not. It's just kind of got a certain finish on it. Unfortunately, halfway through printing on this filament, I live in lovely Chicago, so we had some, it was like 2 weeks almost, with some very high humidity. And unfortunately, it does not like that very much. So I didn't even get to print the next one before I saw the filament just kind of like being real brittle and everything. And I was like, all right, we're going to just take it off. And that's why there's some white stuff on there, because I needed another print for a customer, and that basically went out because this stuff wasn't printing anymore. But it didn't print too bad. There are some, issues with it, but that's from supports, because I used Cura for this, and I don't really use Cura, but everything was set up for the Anycubic, so I was like, all right, let's just go ahead and do this. I'll get around to setting up a profile for Simplified 3D, which is what I usually use, as well as Prusa Slicer, because those are like my two FDM slicers if I do use them. But it didn't come out not too bad. This is a Noob Cybot mask, and I'll leave a link to the files that I use down below. But it didn't print out too bad. Like I said, there There is some scarring on the mask, but it's not bad. It's not something that a little bit of sanding can't take away. This is the worst of it, which is at the edge. So, we just sand a little bit on the edge there, and it'll come out perfectly fine. But a little small for my taste because, I have a fat face from eating too many tacos. So, moving on, we decided to print something else that was something for my kids that my daughter already saw, and she was like, oh, I want it, Daddy. So I went ahead and I printed it, and it is a ghost from Pac-Man. Now this is sized up. I think I sized it up like 300% because it's usually a little tiny small ghost, but he came out very, very well. I don't really have any issues with it. A little bit of stringing. And then there's the Z seam here, which I guess that must be a setting in Cura. Again, I'm not too familiar with Cura, but everything else seemed to turn out okay. The supports came off pretty easily for stock supports, but yeah, the only like major thing is that Z seam that's on there. But it's not the end of the world because it's on the back of them, so it's not something you really see if you just have this guy chilling here. So came out really, really good. This one, I can't wait to use that IPA mist bath to see how this comes out, because this is going to come out very, very well. And again, this one was starting to print, and you can kind of see some heavy layer lines here, and that was when our humidity was starting to get real high, and I didn't notice until after I swapped out the spool that that was basically the end of that spool at that point. So, but it is what it is. So, again, we'll try and see how it comes out with the wash. But this is that Yusu PVB filament. So, shout out to them for hooking us up with it. So, yeah. Again, just kind of going over some tips on everything. This is a dual Z, and it kind of has like dual end stops. Yeah. So they're laser end stops, kind of. They're like what you would see on a resin printer. So if anybody knows anything about resin printers, there's like a tab, and it usually crosses through and it cuts through a beam. That's basically what this is on both sides. So it has the level and it keeps it level. And then you also have the auto leveling system on the head itself. Now, I haven't had really any problems with my printer. I know some people have been having some intermittent issues with the auto leveling system. And really the main thing is you guys got to make sure that you're homing it before you do the auto leveling, because the auto leveling, if you just do auto leveling, there's no home. Like, you gotta make sure that you have the home at 0, and if you just do auto leveling right out of the box, it's not gonna find home right away. So it's not like it's kind of like ET. It's not gonna find its home. So, but yeah, assembly was super quick, just the same as the CR6SE. Like I said, they're basically the same exact machine, but like I said, the major differences here that I like to point out that I think make this machine a little bit better. First off, it doesn't have a Creality board, which, if you guys know anything about Creality boards, you know that they use a single layer of copper on their boards, which the issue with that is they have embedded drivers on their boards. So when you really start to push the machine or do it for long hours, and you keep repeating those long hours over and over and over again, it tends to heat up the drivers, and while you may not notice, but it will miss some steps here and there, or it'll do some damage to the actual board of the printer, and that's why sometimes you see those boards short out and have issues with them because, well, you're kind of overheating them. Now this board is a little bit better. It's their Anycubic board, but again, they're pretty much all the same style, but it is a little bit better designed. The flex plate I like a lot better over the Creality CR6 glass bed. I think this is a better addition because A, it's a flex plate, B, it's textured, so it's not just like normal PEI, it's textured PEI, and it gives it a little bit better grip on printing. So for those that have a lot of issues with printing, which I do on those Creality glass beds, you know, those this is a better fix for that. Uh, the other thing is the hot ends are completely different. While the CR6 has a better hot end than your normal Creality one, it's nowhere near a Volcano hot end. This is probably the best hot end that you could ask for on a out of the box printer. Like, it's a V6 with a Volcano hot end on it. So it's an all metal. So you can literally print whatever you want. If you got an enclosure in this, print away. Like, this is the best printer. So you just got to remove some electronics and get them outside of the box, but you can pretty much print anything out of this right out of the box. So that's really, really cool and almost impossible to see. So you don't really see a lot of machines, but in its price range, you know, they're starting to get up there. So again, dual Z, dual geared extruder, filament runout sensor. Those are pretty much similar or on par with the CR6 SE, as well as the auto leveling. So those three things are just kind of the same. I think this extruder is a little bit better than the CR6 SE, but just by a slight hair. And just to let you know, that CR6 SE that I gave to my buddy, yeah, he already had to replace the extruder. Now, granted, it went through a lot of printing in a very short amount of time, but it did end up dying, and he had to replace it. So, but yeah, this one I haven't printed too much on it. Just some little things here and there, maybe about 20 prints total, and so it doesn't have a lot of print time on it. But I think this will probably end up keeping around. My original thought was to get a Prusa, but with what this provides for me, it's pretty close. Now, I will say that it's not going to print Prusa quality right out of the box, but it definitely provides everything that I need that I want to go forward with if I want to print ABS, polycarbonate, nylon, whatever it may be. It'll print it, no problem. We just got to do some firmware update so we can basically hit those high temperatures. So, but that's pretty much it. I don't really have anything else much to say about the printer. Again, I haven't really had any issues with it, so that's very, very good. We've been printing with it for, what, about 2.5, 3 weeks now? We've had it for quite a while, I know that. So it hasn't really had any issues that I've had. So that's really about it. There is one thing I want to let you guys know. So we loaded up this white filament. I did a customer print, and then I had to print one more thing, which was really, really cool. And again, I'll share this print on the description below. But this was designed by somebody, and I forget their name. I'm sorry. They're on Thingiverse, and they basically designed this tray, and it is just a fit in. Like, this is fit perfectly. I cannot get this thing out. It's very, very hard. So, but it printed very, very well. So you can see here, you got room for your two nozzles, your what is it, like acupuncture needle, the nozzle cleaner, your two wrenches, your USB drive, your clippers, and your Allen keys, and then some spots for some other stuff if you want. This is for tweezers, I believe, and then this is just for miscellaneous stuff if you want some extra nozzles in there or whatever it may be. So, and this is magnetic on the back, so you just slide this right in there and clips right in. So, really, really nice prints, super simple, and I think that took like 2 hours to print, maybe 2.5, maybe even 3. I forget exactly, but it wasn't that long of a print. I just set it, and you know, the next day it was good. So, but yeah, those are pretty much all my points I want to go for on this. If you guys are looking to get this printer, I will have an affiliate link down below to Amazon. I'll see about getting a direct link from Anycubic as well. The Amazon price, I want to say, was like around $400. So it is right around the CR6. I actually want to do a comparison here, so I'm sorry about kind of going off and, you know, checking something really quick. I should have had this set up for you right away. but I just wanted to do a comparison of like the highest price to the highest price Vyper to the highest price CR6SE. So as of right now, the CR6 SE is $409 on Amazon, and it's got a build volume of 235, 235, 250, and you have the Anycubic Vyper, which is $430, but there is a $30 coupon as of making this video, so it basically right on par. But again, you do get a little bit larger volume. You get 245, 245, 260. So this brings it up just a little bit more. So that 245 volume might bring it a little bit better to do bigger prints. So like if you're doing, helmets, and you still have to split it, obviously, but it'll make it a lot easier for you to maneuver it and not take up the entire build volume and worry about something, coming loose, because you're right at the edge here. And, with Creality beds, well, pretty much anybody's bed, the outer ring doesn't really get a lot of heat with it unless you set it up to have that. But, yeah, they're pretty much on par with, what they provide on their boards and everything like that. Like I said, this is a little bit better board, just a slight better, just because they have that little bit extra copper in it. But I mean, that's really like is that really a huge thing about it? But for me, I don't really care either way. I don't really push my FDM printers. If I'm gonna push something, I'm gonna push my resin printers. So that's really where it's at. But yeah, like I said, they're pretty much all the same style printer. They're manufactured from the same place. I'm not going to let you guys know who that is, but yeah, that's why they look very, very similar in terms of what they have and what they provide. But that's pretty much it, guys. If you got any questions, comments, or concerns, you can go ahead and put them down below, and I will try and answer you as fast as I can. If you guys like the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. I want your guys' honest opinion. I'm now no professional here. I'm not like, the big names out there. So I do what I do just to provide as much information that I have for the people that are looking for it. So that's pretty much it. If you guys aren't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That helps out. And that's pretty much it. Like I said, I'll provide all the information that I can for the printer, as well as the STL files or links to the STL files to the people who have made those. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Until next time, happy printing.